There is a case, there's an ongoing debate as to a person he arrested given the defamation of his character as to he is the one who's, trying to make the judgment tilt in a particular way. There's also been the accusation against the former governor of Rivers State. If you're following all of these, if you go on Twitter or now X, you would see some horrible statements that have been made. And, it's been said to be bullying the judiciary or the justice system to, give results or judgment in a particular way. But also we've seen reports from, is it Kano State, where one of the election justices came out and said nobody should attempt to try to give a bribe again or else. That did stir up some national debates and national conversations to the righteousness of the judiciary. Remember, in 2019, there was that report on institutions in the country, and the judiciary ranked third in terms of the most corrupt, right? And we've seen also reports from Zamfara State where there's the back and the forth between APC and PDP as to who is bribing the judiciary in that state. So that's why I've brought in a lawyer. It's not just a lawyer. He also has tasted a bit of politics. He's also a public affairs analyst. So it fits into this very conversation, and he's going to help us look at it from the three different angles: the political angle, the legal angle, and as a public affairs analyst as well. I've got Chioma, Choko in the studio. Welcome on the show.
Thank you, Mr. Kalada. It's a pleasure being here with you this evening.
Something has changed.
What is that?
Since the last time I saw you, something has changed. But we'll not go into that. Welcome nonetheless. Welcome. So would you say the activities of these set of people who have been on social media and trying to push a narrative, making the judiciary look like if the verdict does not go in their favor, then the judiciary has done the wrong thing? Would you call it bullying? Would you call it what would you call it basically?
Well, practically, I think I wouldn't for any reason call it bullying.
Okay.
Yes, I wouldn't. For any reason, I must tell you the truth. Because if you look at it, we operate in a democratic system. And if you look at it, what does it presuppose? What it implies or presupposes is that as a person, as a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you enjoy the same rights which those who occupy political institutions and offices also enjoy. So that, as a matter of fact, leaves you with enormous powers to express yourself, though with certain clauses, which also ensures that this statement or expressions do not affect negatively either the government or the institutions that are created by the law or persons to which such expressions or statements are actually referred to. For me, I think it is not actually bullying on the part of the judiciary.
So you don't think
practically an expression of what they think, what they feel, and the opinion they hold, probably because of the antecedents of this particular institution called the judicial arm of the government.
Now you are part of the judicial arm of the government.
Of course. But with many very.
But you have just said that yes, there is the freedom of expression, but it has its limits. It has to be within the confines of the law. Yeah. Yet again, looking at some of the remarks made towards the judiciary, saying if it's not going to go in a particular way, their judgment, then it means that the judgment it is not the true judgment. Is that not expression taken too far?
Before I catch you clearly, there was a particular analysis or scenario you just painted while you were actually starting. You had mentioned a respected citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as a matter of fact, that had occupied the lofty position of the Justice of the Supreme Court, who recently came out, not quite long, I think about 2 or 3 days ago, on the public fora, made certain statements alluding certain credit to certain persons and to the institution called the judicial arm of the government. Now, look at it. Look at the analysis and the questions you've actually put forward. Look at the status of this person that has said this. Look at the position of Honorable Justice Mary Odili, whom I have so much respect for. I respect her. Look at X-ray the content. vis-a-vis the place for which that particular statement was actually made, and the issue at the front banner, which is the decision of the election tribunal, which is to come up next tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And then you look at the accusations that have been made against this person prior to this time. She has been placed before this time. She has been accused before this time that this particular person is gouging, as a matter of fact, the judicial arm of the government against certain interests and in favor of a particular or a few interests of the public or the government, as a matter of fact. These were accusations that were made against her before this time. And just yesterday or day before yesterday, which will have 2 or 3 days away from now, we'll be having the decision of the election tribunal with respect to where the interests of the masses are actually pinned on, which is the presidential election. And somebody came up openly to say, oh, the persons who are handling a particular section of the election tribunal are experts, and as such, that the decision of the court, if it goes in their favor, or against them rather, if the decision of the court goes against these persons that are, in your language, bullying the judicial arm of the government, they should ensure that the law and order is maintained in the society.
So what's wrong with that statement now?
Now,
as a lawyer, tell me.
I will tell you.
Yeah.
Because I can, as a person, make such statements, members of the public will have no issue or problem with that because it is coming from Chioma Choko. But look at the person who had occupied exalted position like the one she did, coming out openly to say, "Oh, this person."
But she's no longer a member.
But she has a contact, she has a connection, she has the wherewithal to reach out the persons that are occupying these judicial positions. If I say today, the persons who have come to the election tribunal to advance argument are not competent enough, and anybody should disregard the argument they have made before the election tribunal, you and I may not even have issues with that because it is coming from Chioma Choko. But this is a person that has tested the argument of both parties, both counsel, as a matter of fact, in her court, and appreciate very well the person that could hold a better argument. But that is not what Nigeria
is she not entitled to a position or an opinion?
Kalada, obviously, like I said from the Abni show, she is entitled to her opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens when such opinion, at the time it is coming, it's coming to allude, in fact, to declare the result of the Supreme Court? Because what she said, I have read it. I am from Rivers State. I've read the statement credited to her lordship. That statement was crystal clear. That statement.
Okay, let me pause you now. Now, are you saying that the righteousness of the court is something that we should question? Because if you say, yes, she's no longer in office, but she's got contacts, that means you're questioning the level of righteousness of the court.
Well, the truth of the matter is
as a legal personnel,
yes.
You are a part and parcel of the court because you go there to argue cases every now and then.
Yes.
What would you say is the level of righteousness?
Well, the truth of the matter is that, just like the Bible has declared, that as our faces are different, that is how our minds are different. It is also practically possible that her lordship could have said that on her own mind, on her own belief, without even having meeting anybody in the first place. It is very possible. Let us also look at it from that perspective. She could have said that because of her, possibly because she is no longer in the judicial arm. So, as a matter of fact, every human being is a political animal. So she has her political feeling where it tilts towards. So, for me, I can also conclude that possibly she made that statement to persuade the election tribunal to see how they can equally give judgment in her own political favor. But I would want to say, without mincing words, that the righteousness of the judicial arm of the government, as a matter of fact, even before now, it's such that leaves many Nigerians in doubt, looking at the judgment that has proceeded out of their courts.
Okay.
But that is not to say that this particular judgment cannot come out untainted. No, it is practically possible that the decision, because I know that the general perception of the members or large number of the society is that this decision will go against Labour Party. Because I know, particularly those of us who are from the South, we hold this premonition that the Labour Party, as a matter of fact, won this particular election, and for no reason should INEC have declared that election result against them. But it came out.
For the sake of clarity, you're not a member of the Labour Party.
I'm not a member of the Labour Party.
All
No,
right.
I'm not. I belong to the Accord Party.
All right, then.
But that should not preclude me from saying what we feel or what we think,
All right.
or what we believe in. So
All right.
for me, because of that mind, we believe that the decision of the Supreme Election Tribunal, as a matter of fact, should come out in favor of the Labour Party. That is the premonition most persons who tilt towards the Labour Party believes in. But in other ways, look at it very well. Decisions of fact, as a matter of fact, have been presented to the Election Tribunal.
Okay.
It now behoves on the Election Tribunal to weigh the argument and facts and the evidences.
Now you've dragged me into that point now, because I was waiting for you to finish.
Okay.
It's just like my show.
Yes.
It's based on fact, not hearsay.
Exactly.
So when I look at the facts, sometimes it might not be the necessary reality of the listener, but the facts are there, and I have to give you the fact, and that's what the fact says, right?
That is it, yes.
Now, in such situations, you've just mentioned that the courts have given certain decisions that have betrayed the trust of the common man, because the judiciary is said to be the hope of the common man. However, do you see it from the fact that it is based on how those lawyers have argued? You are a lawyer.
There are times, you see, the problem we have as litigants, the problem we have as members of the society is that some of us do not even go to court to know the businesses that are being transacted on daily basis in the courts.
Okay.
One could still have a good case, and at the end you lose, either on the grounds of technicality or on the grounds of the failure of the counsel handling your matter. That is the inability of the counsel to present your matter very well.
All right.
Remember, the court, which is the judge in parenthesis, is not always there when these things are
Of course.
played out.
Of course.
Take, for instance, the election tribunal judges, as a matter of fact, cannot be said to be everywhere on the day elections took place. The one who is in Aba, for instance, cannot be in Port Harcourt. The one who is in North cannot be in Rivers State. That is the way it happens. So it is only the facts that are being presented that are weighed by these justices or judges of the court.
And how they are presented.
Okay. If the lawyer, as a matter of fact, comes to the court with some sort of laziness and lousiness, would you expect the court that has been impressed by the argument, compelling argument of the opposition, as a matter of fact, not to render judgment in favor of that one? The answer is no. How about when a counsel who is on the opposition raises technical issues which are, as a matter of fact, contained in the body of law, the corpus juris of the Nigerian laws, and then those issues that are being raised by the counsel, as a matter of fact, meets the decision or the mind, the favor of the court, you will not tell the court that because you sat in your house, because you are sitting comfortably, because you voted for Labour Party, as a matter of fact, that decision should not go in your favor.
So technicality is not a bad thing.
It is not a bad thing. It is the manner.
It's a tool used by
counsel.
Okay,
as
by
a matter
lawyer.
Of fact.
Yeah.
But so what I'm saying in essence is that we must also appreciate the both coins.
Okay.
Size of the coins. Or as a person, understandably, we voted for a particular political party. But have you also sat down to ask yourself a question? Were your arguments, were your facts presented rightly in court for the court to give you that decision in your favor according to the vote which you cast?
So now let's bring it back to the streets. And you've painted a picture. You've said a lot of people from the southern part of Nigeria, the south, they say, oh, this is how it should go. But what if they are just being sentimental and, like you've said, the counsels, the lawyers do not argue in the right way in court? How are you now going to persuade these people that is how it played out in court?
Now, that is where I read the memo this afternoon that informed members of this nation that the decision of the election tribunal will be made open or rendered on the
6th of September. Yeah.
Now, if you read some paragraph, as a matter of fact, or a particular paragraph there, captured that decision will be read on air, and it allowed all the media houses
it
to
will be
capture.
televised. Yeah.
Now, do you remember that during the time of presentation of the argument, the lawyer to Labour Party and that of Atiku, as a matter of fact, which I read clearly, even though I wasn't there, had filed a motion in court, urging the court to allow these same media houses that you are today calling to come and witness the judgment, to allow a transparent transmission of the proceedings of the court denied access to that. And that is, for me, a denial of justice.
All right.
I will tell you, no sincerity, because if you had wanted to be transparent from the beginning, you would have allowed the parties who had prayed that media, of course, you should understand what was their reason of praying the courts to allow the media houses to come and cover those proceedings. It was for us to now understand, so that when the judgment is being televised, all of us will not say, on the 11th day of May, Atiku's lawyer was unable to tender a particular judgment that would have favored a particular person. You understand what I'm saying?
All
so
right.
Today, if you not televise it, how can we distill the fact that the particular lawyer,
but you are a lawyer, you should be able to help us now. How do we, separate sentiment from what really transpired in court? We'll go for a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue from that very question. How do we separate sentiment from the actuality in court? Stay tuned.
Nigeria Info.
28 minutes gone past the hour of 4. Thank you for staying tuned. This is Hard Facts in 92.3 Nigeria Info. I am Kala Dakurubatubo. And I've got Chioma Choko, a lawyer, a public affairs analyst, and a politician. And we're looking at our conversation from these angles, these three perspectives. And just before we went on the break, I asked the question, how do we, as a people, separate or distill sentiments from actuality in the court process? Because we've just agreed that it depends on how cases are argued in court. So I might have a good case, but I might have a bad lawyer who does not understand technicalities and the tools that are needed to win a case. And then I lose, and people say, hey, buddy, we saw everything now. We saw this supposed to. So how do you do that? I mean, let's have a legal perspective to that.
I think I may want to answer your question from two different perspectives. One of which is respect to the people who are the spectators at any game that comes to the judicial field.
All right.
They are always the spectators, the litigants, those who wish that the judgment of the court goes in their favor and all that. The first thing I think to ensure that we separate sentiment from whatever thing that comes before the court, or fact, as a matter of fact, that is placed before the court, is that for us as litigants to be open-minded. You understand? Look at what is happening. Of course, there are accusations that, judging from the publication or the comments of Her Excellency Honorable Justice Mary Odili yesterday, a lot of persons had to troop into her Twitter handle. There were, a lot of tongue lash, and as a matter of fact, people just believe that the judgment of the court had been delivered already by that singular position that she took. We must be open-minded. We must be willing to also take in the decision of the court. We must look at the reasons for which the decision of the court is made. You don't just stay at the comfort of your home and pass a particular judgment simply because the decision of the court does not favor you. No. You must look at it critically. Look at the nooks and crannies of every decision that is made by the court. And the court as an institution, I want to believe that if you look at it, the principle or concept of separation of powers was actually indoctrinated or incorporated into our constitution, as a matter of fact, to ensure that each of these bodies, particularly the judicial arm of the government, as a matter of fact, plays out her role without any kind of mixture of belief, as a matter of fact. The judiciary, as a matter of fact, has a bigger role to play. They have a duty to convince the people that every decision that is proceeding out of their court is at least
how can they do that? Because we've had several courts judgments.
Have fact check. We have, even as a journalist, you do your fact check.
All right.
You should be able to understand the particular decision that is made out by when a court reads a judgment that is honest, a judgment that is fair enough, even the spectators, even the litigants understand that this particular judgment is made in all sincerity. From the reading of the court, you would be able to appreciate that this judgment was delivered in honesty. But when they cut and twist the decision, the facts,
based on technicalities, how would the court explain?
Of course, if the court is reading a judgment at every point, the court has a duty to explain the reason. It's a constitutional duty that is required or expected of every judge or court to explain the reason for which you have entered a judgment in a particular side or angle. So that court has a duty. It is through that explanation of a judgment that litigants would now know that this particular judgment is fair enough to be believed in or to be challenged in a superior court. Yes.
Looking at some of the tweets I've seen, some are saying make sure you take down the addresses of the judges, take down the names of their children, tweets like that are seen on social media. If the court were to explain the reason for the judgment, if it doesn't favor these set of people who are already having tweets like this, would they readily accept it? Will they have that capacity to have an open mind? And these are the issues.
Well, you know that we are different persons, and at all times you do not expect us to agree to issues that are placed on our table in the same way, just like you and I are here. Of course, it is believed or expected that on that judgment day, which is next tomorrow, there are people, even though the judgment is read in favor of Labour Party, you will agree with me, there are those who
the opposition
willing to accept that judgment.
Yeah, true.
There are those who will see good. For me, I have always said there is nothing to even worry about. We have a court which is a court of public policy and law, and that is the Supreme Court. This judgment, this is not the final. Yes, the court is the final appeal.
I agree.
This is not the final test of this decision. And for me, it does not even call for this uproar and cacophony that we are seeing today. It does not call for it.
Because there will be an appeal.
Where this decision of the court will be tested. It is even in that court. You know the problem. Sorry to say this. I'm not lending credence to what is happening. Nigerians or large number of people believe that the only way we can have our own coup is by the court trooping in to assist the citizens through the judicial arm to say, "Oh, we are making a pronouncement."
No, it brings me back to my earlier question: are they not arm twisting, bullying the court? If they have that mentality that the only way for such a thing to happen,
but you know why, Kalada? Let me tell you. Change it the other way around. The other people that you feel that are calm, take it the other way around. Say tomorrow this judgment is given in favor of Labour Party or the PDP. The other people that you feel
that's why Chioma, I said, see, I'm not in favor of any of them. Yes. So either of them who acts like that, I'm asking you, what do you make of?
It is expected because we have a belief. People live in might. People think that this particular decision should favor us, and they feel that since they do not have access to the judiciary, they do not have the phone number of the courts, the judges to call them. This is the only means they can communicate to them to say, let this judgment be given in our favor. That's what they're doing. That's the techniques.
Now, you've just mentioned something very interesting. You've said the election petition tribunal, their judgment is not the final arbiter, is not the final verdict, yes. Right? There is going to be
the
Supreme Court. So why do you think, if it's not political, of course, why do you think there is so much chaos concerning this first stage of the process?
They believe that this is the foundation.
But it could be...
Let me tell you, it is just like coming from the trial court.
Okay.
If you read lots of cases, plethora of cases, once a matter has been, the judgment has been entered in favor of the trial court, which is, let's say, for instance, the High Court, and then at the same time, the Appellate Court, which is the Court of Appeal, affirms it, it is often difficult to obtain such decision at the Supreme Court.
But we've seen where it's been upturned, right?
No, I said it is always difficult. Okay. That is not. I'm not shutting the otherwise out. It's not true. Now we are in a situation where we have just one test, and then the next one is the final.
Is the Supreme Court? Yeah.
So people think that they have to push, they have to sway, they have to plead, they have to beg, they have to argue, they have to push the tribunal, as a matter of fact, within this stage, to see their reasons, irrespective of the argument that had been canvassed by this court, by these lawyers in court, to ensure that judgment of the court is made out in their favor.
I've got to open the phone lines. What can the court listen to? Because one of the reasons why they decided not to televise, and make the proceeding public is because they did not want all of these external interference and pressure. But can the court be affected by this external pressure?
I will tell you, if the election tribunal is not affected, which is the appeal court, presidential election tribunal is not affected, the Supreme Court will be affected. And that is why I feel pity for those of us who are clamoring that the decision should come in our favor. Let me tell you, the Supreme Court, like I rightly said, is not a court of law alone. The Supreme Court is a court of public policy and law. What would the Supreme Court look at? And that is what many of them have failed to appreciate. That once the decision gets to the Supreme Court, once these facts are placed before the Supreme Court will not just look at the argument that were made by the lawyers. The Supreme Court will also look at the consequences, assuming but not considering that particular decision of the election tribunal is upturned. Assuming it is given in favor of APC, as a matter of fact, and it gets to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court will have to place side by side. Should we cancel this election? Should we declare it null and void? What will be the resultant effect? How many lives will go in? Who will fund it? who is ready to also carry out the ballot boxes to each of the local areas? How about the risk? These are the things the Supreme Court will put into place before making that decision. So for me, it is part of the reasons I keep calling that if you believe that the court can or should give you judgment in your favor, become and serve as a spectator until the decision of the court.
Advice to losers. It's not the end of the show
yet.
It
is not to the losers.
No. See, there are four parties, yes, I hear,
of course,
at the presidential election
PDP, petition. Labour Party, and the MP.
I can't remember the name of the other party, yes. And then the APC. Yes. Four of them. Now it can go anyway. So APC can lose, PDP can lose, yes, Labour Party can lose, the other party can lose. What is your advice to the losers?
Well, but you know that my advice.
You've just said, yes, it is the first stage of the electoral process at the court.
Yes. You know that these political parties behave in different kinds. APC, they have their own character. Yeah. PDP has their own character.
Labour Party
has their own character. Yeah. It is peculiar to each of the political parties.
But they are all Nigerians.
But since you have called me to give a general advice, please hearken to my word. This is not the final stage of this contest.
All right. This is not the final stage of the contest, he says. But what say you? What say you? How do we forestall a breakdown of law and order given the level of sentiments out there? I remember the last time I had a constitutional lawyer, C.A.J. Chinwo, he said it's tantamount to bullying of the judiciary. My guess says it's not entirely true, that to an extent they have a level of freedom to express themselves, and they have sentiments and they've got belief systems, and they may, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I've taken it too far, concerning their social media posts and all of that. However, the sentiments are high. We asked them to participate in the election. They have participated, and now, they're very emotional about it. How do we ensure a breakdown of law and order is not the order of the day eventually when we see the judiciary, the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, give its judgment 2 days from now? Wednesday it is on Hard Facts. We'll talk about it. I do not know if I'll bring back Chioma Choko to see if he would want to talk about that. But, Wednesday is not far. God gives us life. We'll talk about it. 0817 923 0002. That's the first call number. Ring the studio right now. Ring, and I'll answer you. 0817 923 0003. That's the second ring number. Ring me right now, and let's talk for development. Facebook is our go-to message platform. That's a Nigerian Info page. We're live there. We're active on X and live on YouTube. All Nigerian Info page. That's the handle for all our social media platform. And I think WhatsApp is on now. So 08090306 I cannot trust WhatsApp, so I would really do encourage you to focus on Facebook. Drop those messages and let's have a conversation. So I'm going to start with the calls. Hello, what's your name? Hello?
Yeah, Honorable Ida, I'm calling from Nkoro.
All right, Honorable Ida. Ida, welcome. Let's hear your thoughts.
Thank you very much, my lovely brother.
All right,
my brother, this is not the last point to want to go for penalty, for 5 penalties. That's why we will know who will win. Whatever person I win this one is none of my business, but I know that APC is going to take the day.
No, we're not asking you who's going to take the day. We're not going to preempt the court judgment. That's an illegality. We're asking you, based on the sentiments, how do we ensure that, first of all, we look at the development of the country, we look at strengthening our institutions, how do we hold this institution, the judiciary, accountable? He talked about the righteousness of the judiciary, and it's not been put to test once again. And that's what we're focused on. We're not focusing on who's going to win. We'll leave that for the judges to do on Wednesday, the 6th of September 2023. I missed that call. Please do call back. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Yeah, welcome, please.
Yes, brother.
Good afternoon. Yeah, good afternoon. What's your name? All right, Obed Chima, the line is not really clear, but go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Canada, I don't know if this one your best is sounding like this. Does it have any of the signs where speaking is said? Let him come out clearly. You see, I'm not seeing what people are calling bully here. That people are saying all eyes on judiciary. People call it bully. I don't know why Nigerians that we are so hypocritical in this manner. You understand? And we are struggling that we want to fight to install democratic government on a certain nation out there. But yes, we cannot accept what democracy brings to us here in Nigeria. What do they amount to bully? I want to ask.
Obed, now listen.
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Listen to me. First of all, he did say it does not amount to bullying. I wonder if you were listening. Secondly, have you seen some of the tweets that have threatened the lives of the judges and the family members of the judges? Have you seen those tweets? Is that not bullying in your own definition of bullying?
Canada, I saw a post about all eyes on judiciary.
I'm not talking about the post about. I'm saying, have you seen the post about?
I don't know what people call bully. That's what I want to know.
All right.
What is bully for crying out loud?
All right then.
What is bully? And people in the election in August, in February, and we are not talking anything about it. When I ask them, you know, to be right. But yeah, saying bully. I don't understand the country. Why crying out loud?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Obed. Now, thank you very much for your time. Welcome on the show. What's your name? Where are you calling in from?
Hello?
Yeah, can you be audible?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This I'm calling from Thai.
All right, all the way from Thailand. Welcome. Let's say this, please. On radio. Oh, moving on. Yeah, greetings. Good afternoon. What's your name? Number.
So what I'm talking about, everybody will know the act. What do you make me go up Sunday? Everybody wants to know the outcome. Because one of the work that me myself I did my night, and we are about to support the work. Everybody want to work and
it's not the final. It's the final. It's not the final judgment.
I know the Supreme Court.
Okay, good.
Whatever the case, our appeal to everybody to be very calm. Make we come up with
all right then.
approve on them.
All right.
Because they cannot approve on their seat.
All right.
Understand me?
Yes, I do.
Another thing is that I want that I make people the both now. If somebody that at the bottom they say somebody leave the person it's like they get a and they were done result. What we see wasn't just vote.
All right.
That's what I should know. That we are there.
We would have to whether what you vote is. You have wait. Sorry, on my. You have wait. Hello, welcome. What's your name? Are you in from?
Yes, so calling from Brazil.
All right, your name, please.
One thing you need to know is that
can I know your name? Can I know your name?
In this nation. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but please can I know your name?
We don't have it like this before. I know we've been following the trend journalists. So it's about the people are fighting it. You see, let me tell you, there's a difference between when you are asleep and somebody come around you, or maybe you were not at your home, somebody go into your house and steal your things. Than a situation where in your own naked eyes, somebody is coming to steal your property. You know, it's a different.
But do you know now? Pause, please, because I've been trying to pause you. First of all, you didn't tell me your name. But do you know that even when someone, stole something in your front, you still have to argue it in court, and if you do not argue it well, then the court will go against you, and that's what the law says. It's very simple. You have to argue and prove the allegations in court.
That's where I think you need to prove very well at the court. But in all, we know the punishment that you need. This generally, human speaking, so if you not discover that you're giving the punishment to someone to, and if Nigeria factor will come in, that's the annoyance of Nigeria.
All right then. I think you will have to wait for court to do that. Time is fast spent. Let's put some messages or I go on. This one says, good evening. Your guest hasn't seen yet, but I know what you will say. These guys would bully anything in their way for a journey that is futile in arrival. Mary Otherly is even learning, considering the same people bullied Chicago State University. Laugh out loud. They will fall. Okay, nobody's falling. I've seen that is falling, please. You see, everyone know that's okay. I'm trying to ensure. So the same people will then anything going there for them. Corruption hasn't show you that AP moving on. This one said, oh my goodness. Mary is now business in Reverend Point, not from the ones Chief Olugo just seen POB for the election release. People or group of people, particularly those people are living and lucky judiciary and citizens such as good nature and vendor observe that they are in judgment by the judiciary allied. Proceedings of boards in have been open to people when critical evaluation of any president should that the Southern part of the South out for a long no religious sentiment and Peter Oyechi stated to Jobi's own one failed standard or geopolitical own sentiment from one here. People there voted longer and reached an acceptance of age two. In the PEPT, there are in evidence to standard. I had the guts to say that the people expressed here are mere sentiments different from what's before. Sounds to ground down and the election 2022 issues. And most of their prayers have been taken care of in the Supreme Court and state. Chioma Choko and Saga with that one. Thank you very much. Anyway, on Facebook says on technicalities, I can then go technical on. You mentioned what it is. And I can't go into pieces. I'm not even going to try. But ended up to add that eye on the judiciary. This one says the only thing that will forestall a breakdown of one order come 6th of September is justice. Let the judiciary give nothing but justice. The masses are patiently waiting for them. The judgment will make Omar. Nothing is marring. Nigerians are tired of suffering, he did say. Time is fast spent, but that's from Charlie Man or Bianozie. That's the pronunciation of Bianozie. So let's wrap things up. The rest of the messages we'll take during the open season. The DSS put a statement saying that it is now formed and people want to go out in the street and protest and cause it has say credible agents and it is called on university parent guidance to ensure that the young people in custody do not go at break that. Sometimes we are intelligent to take it serious because we read it over time. But in such situation, what would be the advice to Nigerians? Let's wrap up conversation.
You see, I have a problem with Nigerian youth.
Okay.
Yes, we fail to act when it is necessary.
Okay.
I will tell you not sincerity. Look at it. I ran an election. I contested for Rivers State House of Assembly. And somehow, that election went against me. My problem shouldn't be judiciary because the judiciary is not in the final arbiter, as a matter of fact, of my election. If I should go to INEC. The judiciary is only there. Test waters of who feel aggrieved and not all the parties. For instance, my election was declared that I lost. Did I go to the court? The answer is no. So for me, the DS also for me is it does not require such information to members of the public because it would rather trigger the political turn as a matter of fact.
All right then. Thank you very much, Chioma Choko. That's the much that we can take. But first, before I go, Muyi Barry on Facebook says my trust in the judiciary is zero. These are the issues. All right. Do stay tuned. Another commercial break. After that, the news update. Stay tuned.